All right, he is ready to talk to the nation about his decision on Libya. President Obama addressing Americans in prime time on Monday. His decision sparking a whole lot of accusations over the constitutionality of this move. To one of the best constitutional lawyers I know, Mark Levin, who might surprise you with what he thinks. He joins me now exclusively by phone. Of course, Mark, a radio icon in his own right, a great show, and a great commentator. Mark, very good to have you. You think constitutionally the president is on good ground here, but personally you have trouble with this. But explain the constitutionality part, because that's what both parties are sort of itching over.
Well, Congress agrees with me because, ultimately Congress has the power of the purse, which is an enormous power. And they can defund this war the way they ended the Vietnam War, but they haven't. Nobody's introduced a bill to do it, despite Kucinich and RuPaul running around telling everybody what they think. That's fine, but the fact of the matter is...
Whoa.
What?
It's Ron Paul.
Yeah, I meant Ron Paul.
I know. Here we go. Okay, go ahead.
But in any event, the vast majority of both houses obviously disagree with them, because if Congress wanted to stop this, they could defund it. They could defund the entire Defense Department if they wanted to. I just want to make something clear. The founders rejected the Articles of Confederation because it didn't have a strong enough executive. So they eventually passed, and the states ratified the Constitution, which has a strong executive. It's not a monarch, though. And the executive is, in fact, checked by Congress primarily through the purse, as was done before. But to say that Congress has some executive authority in this area and only this area, when in fact one of the reasons the Constitution replaced the Articles of Confederation is because they wanted a single commander-in-chief, is not borne out by any history or any of the philosophies or philosophers that the founders relied on, like John Locke and Montesquieu and so forth.
Who does have the ultimate power on war? Then if the president could call it, and I guess we haven't, Vietnam wasn't a declared war. No war or insurrection we've dealt with since has been sort of a declared war. So I'm wondering, is that a constitutional problem in and of itself?
No, because there's a little murkiness here, but you have to go back to basics. We don't want 535 members of Congress determining when we go to war, but they can, on reflection, determine whether we should continue at war, so they can stop it. But you don't turn a primary executive power over to Congress, and the founders did not do that. You see the word you just used, make war? They considered make war at the Constitutional Convention, if you look at Madison's notes. They rejected make, and they replaced it with declare. Now, what did declare mean back then? Declare war meant to let all of our allies and enemies all over the world know that we were in a state of war. It was really a formality, but it was a formality not to replace the separation of powers doctrine. Now, that said, I think what we're doing in Libya is outrageous. I think this president is trying to figure out a reason for why we're in Libya. I also think his failure to consult with Congress, to try and get Congress to support him, is a political failure and a policy failure. And Congress, in the most extreme cases, not this one, also has the power to impeach and remove a president. So it's not like Congress doesn't have power. It's just that Congress chooses not to exercise it.
Let me switch gears a little bit to this conservative confab going on in Iowa right now. I think Haley Barbour, the Mississippi governor, is speaking right now. That a dozen of them are going to be there today. Newt Gingrich and so many others. I've been listening to you. I love listening to you when I come home at night. It's a great show. Really, I think you are rude to your callers, though, just as a footnote. But what do you think, Mark, about the cast that you're seeing so far among the Republicans? Any horse in this race you like or have hopes for? What?
I learned how to treat my callers by the way you treat your guests, by the way. No, I'm just kidding.
That's just me. I invite you on my show.
I'll tell you what I think. I think any one of these Republicans, and I mean this, is head and shoulders over the current occupant of the Oval Office. That doesn't mean I don't have certain favorites and so forth. But none of them have a radical approach to domestic and foreign policy that this president has. And every single one of them realize that we're on a financial disaster course, which this president keeps putting his foot on the gas, keeps taking us to the edge. So I've said before, I would vote for an orange juice can over this president, and I absolutely would. But there are, in my view, certain Republicans better than others. And I think there's a lot of good ones. I keep hearing, oh, the field is weak. The field is weak I think the field is pretty good. You've got ex-senators, you've got governors, ex-governors considering it.
But you've been more party to those who are part of aggressive cost-cutting, not just the status quo, the rhinos, as you call them. So you want those who are going to be not just evolutionary, but almost revolutionary type figures, right?
I believe in constitutional conservatism. And we've reached a point here now under this president, when we're done at the end of this fiscal year, he himself would have racked up $5 trillion in debt on top of all the rest of it. As you well know, Social Security, Medicare broke. The actuary for Medicare said that it's unsustainable, that they're going broke. So what are we going to do about it? This president does nothing.
Right.
I'm concerned also about the Republican leadership in the House. I don't see them being very effective either. So, yes, I don't know why it's considered extreme, aggressive, right-wing, or whatever to want to constrain all this outrageous conduct by our government.